My secret, just do something that ain't nobody ever done before, but make it sound like something that's always been there forever.
Welcome to This Filipino American Life, a podcast that explores the nuanced experiences of Filipinos in the United States at iba pa. My name is Elaine Delalas, and I am joined by
Ryan Carpio,
Joe Bernardo,
and
Mike Nailot.
Yay, we got it right. I remember to introduce Mike. Pew, 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 pew. On this mini episode, we're gonna share our post-election thoughts,
rants,
and feelings,
fears,
and trepidations.
Yeah, that's real sounds that we made.
So, what did you do on election night, guys?
Let's see. I actually went with Ryan to the Measure M party.
TFTI.
Election night party.
Thanks for the invite.
And what is Measure M, Joe?
Measure M is the Los Angeles countywide, right? Countywide measure to pay for transportation. So basically, it's a half cent sales tax to basically tax ourselves so we can get more transportation options here in Los Angeles County.
And it passed.
Yeah,
it did pass.
Nearly 70%.
Right.
Yeah.
I voted for it.
And so did I.
Me too.
Mike, did you vote yes?
I think I did. Pretty sure I did.
There's a lot of stuff on the ballot.
Yeah, it was
Mike didn't vote.
one.
Mike didn't vote.
I voted for McGovern.
So we went to the party. Actually, we went to dinner first and kind of drank a little bit, and we started seeing the election returns, and it was just very, very harder and harder to kind of fathom that we lost. That Trump would win. So by the time we got to the Measure M party, it was around like 8:30. The mood in the room was very, very somber and depressing. And if you ever been to like a election night party where your candidate lost, it's a really bad feeling. Yeah.
Oh.
But the thing was, it was a Measure M party, which actually won.
Yeah.
But everybody was just sad because of the presidential election.
And the only thing that was up was on the TV was CNN and the presidential election. So every kind of like new state that, breaking news and stuff, we're all like watching it, and sometimes it was just really, really sad. And then Joe and I would look at each other like, what is going on here? What's happening? And then,
So Mike and I were at the Measure HHH party.
Oh.
Triple H, not the wrestler.
WWE, Triple H.
And not Double H, which was the Beverly Hills anti-one building measure.
Wow. I didn't know those.
So
What is Triple H, Mike?
So Triple H was a measure. It's a measure to get 10,000 units of permanent supportive housing built out over the next 10 years.
Nice.
In Los Angeles.
In the city of Los Angeles, along with some affordable units. And we had our own party at the AT&T Center. Well, I guess the USC Center now, where we had like 3 screens going. The big one showing CNN, another screen showing kind of like the local election results and etc. But yeah, same experience where we're kind of just like celebrating the fact that Triple H passed.
Yes, so
by big
the
margin,
measure passed, but the entire party did not feel good.
And it's funny because like the mayor showed up and like maybe 4 or 5 council members. Mark Ridley Thomas was there, so a bunch of local LA politicians were there. And I was like, oh, are they here because the other parties were too depressing or something? Or
No, they usually make rounds.
yeah, they were running the rounds, but they stuck around for a while. I was like, oh,
you're totally right.
This is the fun party because Triple H passed by a wide margin. So
I wanted to give the mayor, Eric Garcetti, a TFAL postcard and be like, Yan Yan says hi. But I didn't because I was wallowing in my own sorrows at the results.
It was a hard night. Like
Yeah.
I was looking to celebrate, and
Me and Girly, my wife, actually left at 9:00. Yeah. We just went home, and she just kept on yelling. She kept saying, "What's going on? Oh my gosh!"
I can actually picture her saying that. I was in this long group text with a couple of friends, like well, like 10 of us, and we just were like crying over the text message the whole time. Like, what is happening? I can't believe this is happening. This is insane. And I went to bed crying, and I woke up crying. It wasn't a good feeling.
Yeah.
Is my niece's first presidential election that she voted for. She is in SF State now. And she texted our family, and she was crying. She's like, "What is happening?" It was like 11 o'clock at night. She's like, "What's going on? How is this happening?" And she was crying. So it reminded me of my first presidential election with, like, it was Gore.
Was it Gore?
Gore Bush, yeah, mine too.
Yeah. So anyway.
Was that my first? I guess that was my first one too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Oh man.
So what do you know? We've all seen all the CNN coverage or whatever, the news coverage about the election. What are your like kind of big opinions of what went wrong for the Democrats?
Nothing. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
look at what they're saying today. It's like 1.5 million up on the popular vote. That's even
Yeah.
more than between Gore and Bush.
Yeah.
So,
That's a lot of hanging chads.
yeah.
Sorry.
But it's like the Dems did everything right. She won the popular vote.
Did they though? I mean, you know,
Did they do everything right? Is that what
I
your
mean,
question is?
they could have done. That's true. I'm not gonna say they did everything right. They could have improved and like campaigned in other states that were obviously important that they didn't campaign in, like Wisconsin.
yeah,
and,
she didn't even go to Wisconsin.
and all those things. But well, at the end of the day, I just kept thinking like, I live in California, and we did our part.
Yeah.
I kept thinking like, we did our part. We voted for her. We were with her, even if some of us didn't want to be with her. We were still with her.
We mobilized to Nevada. I
Yeah.
think we had a good amount of people that mobilized.
I knew a bunch of people who went to Nevada, and it worked. Like
Yeah.
it worked.
Oh, yeah.
Nevada
Nevada's
was
blue.
blue.
Yeah.
And there's now like a Latina senator
Yeah.
who's going to be there. I mean, and there are positives, right? Like Kamala Harris is going to be the first biracial like senator from California.
Indian American.
Yeah.
And
Like, that's an
African-American.
amazing. And
Yeah.
like Tammy Duckworth, like she's going.
in Chicago or
in Illinois.
yeah.
Like she's a legit American hero going to be there. So
Do you think it's just complacency? Like,
I mean,
we got this?
That's what, you know, a lot of the media is talking about, how a lot of Democrats didn't just stayed home because the basically the Republican vote or the votes for Trump were more or less the same as it was in the last election. And
yeah. I
people
see.
just kind of just stayed home. And yeah, I guess it was complacency maybe. They weren't excited over Hillary.
it's kind of like the same with Gore.
Uh-huh.
They didn't. Yeah.
I heard a quote that night. Someone said, "You know what the difference is between Hillary and Barack Obama?" Personally, he's a guy that I knew. He goes, "I actually rode bikes for Obama, knocked on doors for Obama. I did not do that for Hillary," and that just was very telling about the, I guess the
Enthusiasm
excitement.
gap?
Yeah, the enthusiasm
Yeah.
for Barack Obama and maybe the lack of with Hillary. So, and you know, it's just I don't know.
But the thing is, the Dems should have known that. Like looking through history,
Yeah.
it's hard for a party to maintain to win the election after the incumbent terms out.
Yeah.
And they should have known that. And
Yeah.
But I had this conversation with a friend like the day after. I think it was like, you know what, this country is too scared to be racist, but but the country's not afraid to put a white woman in her place.
Oh, that's awful.
It's awful, but like that's what I felt like the day after. I'm like, they were too scared to like it. To be called a racist is like, it's like, oh my God, like, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you did that. But to be like, to check a woman, it's totally acceptable for a lot of parts of this country. And so I think it's really tough. And I have never been one to be like all about I've never been one to identify as a feminist because it kind of just was like, I'm a woman of color. Like I have to live this life. But there was a moment, like I said the other day, like, I need to get strong. And then somebody asked me, why do you need to get strong? And I was like, so I can fight the patriarchy. And I never thought I would ever say something like that. Cause that seems like It seems like such like a white feminist thing to say, like something you'd see in Portlandia or something. But like that's what I feel like now. Like I need to be strong so I can fight back. I can fight the misogyny and take down the patriarchy. It's like I'm a college student all over again.
Yeah. I heard some of my my friends, my women friends, who said this is personal for me. This is hard because it's personal for me. And comparing kind of like the candidates, of course, I totally get it. So that it doesn't hurt. It hurts. It hurts a lot. I also heard people say this hurt more than the Dodgers losing.
Actually, it was.
Actually, it was. Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did.
We're used to the Dodgers.
I know.
We're used to the Dodgers losing.
There's like next season, right?
Yeah.
There's next season.
Yeah, but there's no next season for her.
Wait, so have there been instances? I can't remember where a party has held on for like 2 straight elections. Besides, I guess.
Well, there's
Reagan and Bush,
like
right?
FDR.
Reagan, Bush.
But I mean, like people say, like Bush only won because Dukakis was such a crappy candidate or something.
Yeah.
So is it really just a matter of like, party sabotaging itself somehow, or
maybe
just not having the right candidates?
Well, we've had these conversations where like the race was Hillary's to lose.
Yeah.
So, like, and now with the news coming out, like it's like too little, too late. Like Republicans are calling out, like the NSA is saying that Russian people, the country did leaked information and blah blah blah.
Okay.
Like they involved themselves in an electoral process of another nation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, good, that's no shit, Sherlock. Like we all saw that, and it's too little, too late. And like the GOP has like ruined their party. Like their base is completely different. And we were saying, Mike and I were like, well, they didn't. Like their party is stronger than ever. I don't think the party is stronger. Like I don't think the GOP is stronger. I think it's like extremely fractured. And now but I think the Dems, they need to like reevaluate.
Is it fractured? I don't know. Maybe they're just uniting behind white supremacy.
Oh God!
God.
And basically, all the moderate Republicans are saying, "Oh, it's okay to be racist now."
Well, I mean, what we'll be telling is the degree to which any of the supposed fracturing in the GOP actually plays out in Congress.
Yeah.
Because I mean, on the one hand, like, we have like these majorities now, and so if you were a Republican trying to get something to happen, I mean, now would be the time, until like, because of your whatever moral, issues you might have with who the president is now. Like, are you gonna let that get in the way of trying to get your shit done?
Yeah.
Because like, now's our chance to kind of do all this stuff we were trying to do. Or is there gonna be a lot of infighting that we're gonna see? I guess that'll really kind of show.
I think it's gonna
know.
be infighting.
You think so?
Just because, like, I have, this is so weird, but I feel like I have more faith in our country and in the people who represent us, that I want them to actually believe. Like, there's a contract you have with society in this country that you believe that these people represent you and will go to bat for you as a person who lives here, as a citizen. So I want to believe that they do. I want to believe that they'll fight for things that this country is like fighting for. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Man, you're too optimistic.
I'm really optimistic.
That's really optimistic.
I am scared.
What are you scared about?
I am scared that basically all these kind of draconian measures that they touted during the campaign, Muslim registry, building the wall, in the border around Mexico, just the rise of hate crimes that's happening, it's gonna increase. It's happening in California too. Some hate crimes are actually happening in California, in some coastal states and stuff. But I'm actually thinking of buying a gun.
Wow.
But I don't know. That's just kind of weird internal debate I have with myself.
Well.
But I'm scared.
I'm in the same boat. I'm scared. I mean, as much as I'm optimistic, I'm in doomsday prepper mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's happening.
Would you say? What would you say to somebody who told you, like, well, we have shitty people in our country, and that's always been the truth. Why is it any different now?
That's what my dad said.
Oh, good. I mean, I've heard it before. I've heard it and I've read it. So, what would you say to people who have expressed like, That's not any different. It's just we highlight it now because the election just happened.
I think, before there was at least some kind of mechanism or some parts of the state apparatus that can protect the civil rights of certain people. They can. The Republican Congress can easily remove that and kind of just remove all the progressive things that's been going on for the past 40 years or something. I mean, not to say that it was perfect and not to say that it was paradise prior to this election or anything like that, but for me, it's just more of a step back, and we're just more in a defensive mode.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think what's troubling, I think, for a lot of people is the fact that usually, and maybe this is just politics or acting, but usually our leaders are good at, trying to kind of find a balance, like in public, and maybe like putting on a face like, well, these might be the extreme parts of our parties or whatever, but I, as your leader, I'm here to kind of unite us all together, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've never had a modern day politician kind of, if not spew the rhetoric, but at least not disown it in a real way. It's kind of like, well, I didn't say that. They might have said that, but I'm not going to tell them to shut up, or I'm not going to tell them that they shouldn't be part of my party, because they're probably voting for me. So, I mean, post-election, whether or not that continues to be the case, or if he finds a way to kind of, be more of a uniter, which I doubt. But if he finds a way to do that, then I think that would help people feel a little bit better. But the fact that he hasn't disowned any of that at all, there's going to be like a white nationalist like celebration in D.C. and everything else, those kind of things. It's like he's not disavowing any of that. So
it's kind of weird. I'm actually most scared of not necessarily like civil rights and or human rights. I'm actually more scared of World War III and basically climate change.
Oh, you mean just in general, like how he's responded, or maybe what he may not know about the entire world? Is that what you mean?
That, or like he has nuclear codes.
Yeah.
The stuff that's going on with China, our politics for the last 10, 15 years is very much like the politics, the relationship that Japan and the US had prior to World War II. And the fact that Russia is expanding, and they're trying to expand, and they're basically being more of a aggressor. What's someone like President Trump going to do?
Right.
Not to say that Hillary was a dove. She's definitely a hawk, and she's definitely a hawk when it comes to foreign policy.
But man, I would have loved to have her on my, right?
And the thing is, like, being in California, we're very vulnerable to that. And
we're a target. We're like a key target. And we haven't had like a major terrorist attack in like Southern California or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I think part of it is like, because we're like Cold War kids, right? But we grew up during the era of like hopeful de-escalation, right? It was, I mean, it was Reagan in power, but there was like the different treaties and things like that, and trying to reassure the country that, we're trying to reduce, our overall arsenals on both sides. We're trying to work together so that we don't have to resort to pushing that button or whatever. But we've had no reassurance that Trump is anywhere in that realm whatsoever. So
for me, on a more like basic level, this is what really, when you ask, are you scared? I'm really scared, because I think the idea of leadership is put to the side. Because, yes, we elected a president and his name happens to be Donald Trump, but I don't think people realize that we didn't really elect a leader. And when we're looking for leadership, especially in, during this time where people, I imagine when people are like deciding whether or not to choose Hillary as a leader or Donald Trump, and they chose Donald Trump, what were you actually, what leadership qualities were you looking for? And, when you talk about international stuff, I'm like, man, I would love to have Hillary on my side, because she knows, you're right. She may not know, she might not be, she's a total hawk, right? But I mean, how did that, so that's what my fears are about this, is like, we don't have an actual leader. We have a person that lies, right? And it became okay to lie about stuff, apparently, like throughout the last few months.
Yeah, made billions of dollars screwing over other people and companies. Right? So.
Who now has to settle and pay
25
Trump
million.
University people $25 million.
Any alumni from Trump University, please email us.
But I'm not even mad at Donald Trump because he was exactly what I expected him to be. But what saddens me is that so many people bought into it.
Yeah,
that's what's sad.
So for you, Donald Trump is basically indicative of this, white nationalist populace.
You know what? I think that there was his. Let me put it like this: I wasn't surprised that he said what all the things that he said wasn't surprising to me. I was not surprised at any turn. Whatever he said on Twitter, in front of CNN, I wasn't surprised that he took some of them back. Like none of that stuff surprised me. To me, he is a reality TV show personality who is rich, and he pandered to every kind of person out there.
Do you feel like in the press when you see like the transition and you see his interactions with Obama, like for me when I read his body language or read his face, it looks like he doesn't want to be there.
I don't know. I don't read too much into that.
I mean, okay,
it's just me.
It's you, yeah. But I just look at him like I don't think he wants to be there. I don't think he wanted this job. I think he just was expecting to lose. And he was.
You might be right.
And now that he's faced with the fact that he actually has to run the country.
Well, did you see the SNL skit yesterday?
I haven't been able to watch SNL without hurting my heart.
So basically, what's his name? Who plays
Alec
Trump?
Baldwin?
Alec Baldwin, yeah. He played Trump, and he was basically. There was basically a skit saying how scared and how Trump had no idea what was what the country or what to do as a president. Like he was Googling ISIS.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, Pence comes out and he says, "Oh, so Trump said to Pence, oh, so you're gonna take care of everything, right?"
Yeah.
So I'm scared of that.
Yeah. Well, they said something else that was really kind of scary, and that is like, you're the reason I won't ever get impeached.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, holy crap, that's for real.
Pence is probably millions of times worse, and he's an experienced politician.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I remember reading something that like Trump had like offered VP to Kasich and basically told Kasich like you would be running the country. And Kasich turned him down because he was like, no, because if I'm going to do that, I'm going to be president. And like in the grand scheme of things, I know Kasich wasn't somebody that I would have voted for. And I believe his ideology is also like problematic. Mm-hmm. But like I would have like Kasich and any other election, had there been no Trump, he would have been the guy. Like he would have won that. In my opinion, like that's what he would have been the lead. But he was just like, nah, it's cool, dude. Because cool story, bro. But if I'm gonna be president, I'll be president. So he walked away from Trump because he was like, that's not the bargain I want. I'm not gonna make that deal with the devil. Basically, is what he said. Yeah. So that's just it's all problematic, and I can't believe I'm saying like I'd rather have Kasich there, but that's interesting. Yeah. Has anybody talked to your parents or families about this? I did. On my way to work the following day, I called my dad. I was like crying. I thought I would be okay, but I was crying. And I was like, this country is so fucked up, Dad. Like, it's so fucked up that it's happening. And my dad's response was, this country has always been fucked up. It's like, oh, okay, I guess you're right, true. Dad.
Yeah.
Like, also, sorry for the swearing. Me and my dad swear like sailors at each other. So,
I haven't. I mean, I talked to my parents, prior to the election, and none of them were gonna vote for Trump.
Same here.
And me and my parents, we don't talk politics because they know I'm very kind of far left. Mm-hmm. And
you're so American.
Sorry. So, yeah. So, Yeah, I'm very far left compared to my parents. And me and my brother don't talk about politics at all because prior it almost came to blows.
Wow.
Yeah, well, not that far, but
Activista.
NPA.
You're an activist.
yeah, me and my brother are like kind of complete opposite in the political spectrum.
Wow.
Opposite. I'm the pussy. How about you, Ray?
Surprisingly, I think my entire family, we all felt sad. And the most political person outside of myself and my family, I actually think is my dad. And my dad's like, I can't believe this. So, there was a moment though where I was asking my brothers, I'm like, hey, do you think dad's voting for Trump? And they're like, nah. And then we all looked at each other, we're like, somebody better ask him. So, but yeah, we were all sad. And I don't know any of my cousins or anything like that where they stood, but we're the only ones here in Southern California. So, we were all sad. Everyone from my niece to, I think even my dad. So,
Have you, Mike?
I mean, I got into it with my parents a couple times for the past week. And I mean, they're probably a little bit more socially liberal than I give them credit for. But I mean, they're hardcore, card-carrying Republicans, and they've always had beef with the Clinton family just because of what happened in the 90s with military bases and the military and et cetera. And so, I mean, I actually probably don't even know how they voted. But I mean, they didn't like Trump, but they hated Hillary more, so they probably voted for Trump. But yeah, I mean, they just, when that went down, I started kind of seeing kind of the reports of people getting harassed and attacked, and it's like, I literally called them as like, see, this is what you guys have done. With that kind of voice. And maybe that was the worst way to approach it, but I was like, I mean, you guys got to take accountability for your actions politically. And I mean, I've never had that conversation with them, and I'm probably going to try to avoid any political discussions over Thanksgiving since this episode's being recorded before Thanksgiving. So we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, I mean, they're pretty conservative. I'm from a military town. All my, local family and friends are also really conservative, even folks that are like our age instead of, are celebrating Trump. So, I mean, I'm definitely like kind of an outlier amongst the family and friends. So
how about, other friends who are maybe Trump supporters or people who...
I don't know if I have any friends who are Trump supporters.
I definitely have Republican friends. I know of one who I debate with on random stuff. He probably listens to podcasts actually, but just through Facebook, he mentioned, he goes that he didn't vote for the president because he thought that he's card-carrying Republican since he was 18. He's like, I didn't vote for Trump. But I also know that I'm a Republican, and I would like, I think he was really more happy about the House and the Senate than it was about Trump being elected. So there's also, I've seen, this is just personally, I've seen a pattern when you ask people like, how do you defend your candidate, right? Most of them defend their candidate by talking crap about Hillary.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, would you rather, a lot of these like scenarios, and I'm like, wow, I've never heard you defend your candidate, which kind of tells me, there are some folks out there who don't believe in the rhetoric of, building a wall or aligning with white supremacy, right? But they do defend the Republican Party. But they gotta understand, Donald Trump's not a Republican. I don't know why people don't get that, but
because they hate Mexicans.
And Muslims.
There are so many Filipinos in California who voted for Trump or a Republican because they just don't like blacks and Mexicans.
that's true.
Or
it's
they
in our
love
community.
Reagan or something.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. I just think that's like a huge issue. I think in the Filipino community is that
We're super racist.
yeah, they think they pulled themselves up
by
the
the bootstraps. Yeah.
and Latinos and blacks should do the same and stop complaining. And that's like my biggest pet peeve.
It's more than a pet peeve.
Oh yeah,
yeah, but
yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Of course.
Because it's not true, and like Filipinos were afforded a lot more different privileges than black and Mexicans.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, Don't get me started on
I know.
this.
It's going to be for another
A whole nother episode.
That's a whole episode.
Racism within and around Filipinos.
Yeah.
but let me say this. I have Republican friends who, I guess the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I have Republican friends who don't believe in the Trump mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of respect for that. I love debating just philosophy and politics and learning about different sides. The problem I have with Trump is a lot of the little things. Barack Obama is probably going to go down as one of the best presidents we've ever had. I'm going to say that out loud. I think it's in history will show and time will tell. But one of the things I will always remember about Barack Obama is how he composed himself as a leader. I'm not even going to talk about the politics. It's just about the leader, right? How he composes himself in front of the camera, how he composes himself as a leader to young people who look up to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what's going to happen to that. You know, I hope and pray that Trump turns this around and actually becomes something, I don't know, a leader.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All politics aside, when you look at a president, you want to be able to respect what the president says, aside from what Joe was saying about nuclear stuff, but on the very, very, very basic level for our young people to look at a president. There are kids right now who are like as young as 9 and 8 who are scared.
Yeah.
Who are actually scared.
They're fearful.
Yeah.
Like they think they're going to be like deported.
Yes. Scared.
Like, that to me is like, I wonder, like, how does President Voldemort understand? I can't say president and his name together. So that's what I do to survive. That's my coping mechanism.
Voldemort.
But, like, he's obviously a narcissist. And he also seems to care about, like, people liking him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the fact that there are people out there who are deathly afraid of him
Mm-hmm.
irks him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be liked and loved. But it's not going to happen from the certain population because he has done nothing
Mm-hmm.
to earn that respect or love, or not even love, but just respect. Because he's basically shat on everybody, and it's like,
including his own quote unquote party,
including his own, yeah, exactly. So it's like that. That's a testament to I don't know what can we do moving forward. Like for me, moving forward, I think there's a lot of working out these days.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm legit like working out more, going to different classes, getting healthier because I feel like I need to be strong in case I get attacked.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a really sad way of thinking about it. Like I feel like I need to be stronger so if something happens to me I can defend myself. But I think it's also like reaching out to allies and other folks out there who are on the same wavelength. I have yet to, I'm trying to do this like reading list thing in a way to cope. And my cousin pointed out like, oh, you should read books from the other side so you can see where they're coming from. And I get that. And I understand the validity of it. But I don't know if I want to spend money on like a Tea Party book or give money to Bill O'Reilly. You know what I mean? Maybe I can just download it and pirate it or something to get it. But I'm just like, I understand it, but like, I feel like it hurts my brain to, but that could be said too if people, I don't know.
Yeah. So, what are you going to do about everything, Ryan?
So, aside from like, and I think in the last couple of weeks, some of us have joined like support groups online and text messages from folks to just kind of vent. But, action is going to speak louder than our venting. And I think part of it is, this is more than just a wake-up call. This is a giant earthquake for us to kind of like really work hard towards trying to make sure that people pay attention to what's actually going on. So for folks out there, don't just pay attention to like the echo chamber that you have with your friends, and I agree, Elaine, like we should start reading up on what other people who don't agree with us, or we can learn something from that. But in addition to that, do donate to nonprofit organizations out there that educate folks about diversity, that educate folks about immigration, that educate people about tolerance.
Yeah,
think,
like locally advancing justice.
right.
ACLU.
Exactly. And so there are ways to kind of actively support those organizations that are doing really good, that are, maybe in a little bit of peril now that we have a president that doesn't agree with them. So we need to lift them up in a particular way.
Yeah, and for folks who want to do work, I would say like don't try and reinvent the wheel. Like reach out to your networks and find an organization like we've mentioned, like Advancing Justice and ACLU, that's doing the work, so that you're not you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. There have been people out here for years, for decades, doing this kind of work. So we should support them. And that's another thing. Like I'm trying to think of as like I work at a university, and I try to think about all the students who are on DACA. And like that, to me, that's my biggest stressor at work right now, is like how will we be there to support our undocumented students? Because they're really in a limbo pattern now, because DACA was like an Obama thing. And there are students who are studying abroad, and like there have been messages. I saw this from like a Cal State perspective, but like their chancellor sent about a message, or it was in their system, like if you're a DACA student and you're abroad, you should come home before January 20th. You should not try and go abroad after January 20th. And it's pretty much the school saying like we won't be able to help you if after the date. And that, to me, just that like, if you're a student, you want to be able to know that your university is a place that like you're safe in, and that they would protect you even if you're abroad. And so the fact that these students have to question that is very worrisome to me.
Yeah, I think you should also continue to support organizations that do it, support campaigns that are currently going on, like the Dakota Access Pipeline, Black Lives Matter movement, Asian Americans Advancing Justice.
Yeah, this is not a once in 4 years kind of thing.
No.
And it's hard work. It's hard work. It's supposed to be,
And to a lot of Filipino Americans out there, just know that they're not. Trump is not necessarily targeting Filipinos per se, but it could easily happen.
Yeah.
I mean, he did mention like Philippines and the people who come here, etc. But really actively targeting our community is not happening, but it could easily happen to us. So we should just, we need to help other people who are targeted. Like if there is a Muslim registry, register yourself as Muslim.
Yep.
Go there with a rosary around your neck, right? And just say, "I'm Muslim."
Yeah.
Rosary, scapular,
and then
giant cross.
And climate change, that's a huge thing. And if Trump is thinking of appointing a
person who doesn't believe in science,
that's going to affect the Philippines way ahead of if it's going to affect here in America.
Absolutely.
Philippines is basically, and the global South is the front lines of climate change.
And they experience like super typhoons every year now, instead of like once a decade.
Exactly.
So it's they suffer the repercussions of climate change every day.
Yeah. So donate to organizations, ACLU, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, Joe Bernardo Foundation, TFAL. But yeah, just do what you can.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike? Any thoughts?
I think we just need to be vigilant. I think there's a lot of opportunities to stem a lot of the things that Trump could or would want to do, as long as we don't let it slip past us somehow, or we get, we just get overwhelmed so much that we just stop paying attention. There are things coming up, there's ballot measures and elections like almost every year. I mean, we have things that are happening locally that we need to pay attention to, so that if things happen on a federal level, at least we as a community can kind of hold our own ground and support our communities. And then obviously there's the midterm elections coming up. We need to pay attention to that. But yeah, I agree. Like, I think, we've spent so long to try to build up these structures and organizations that have helped kind of support our communities when in times of need. And now more than ever do we need to kind of really kind of invest in that, invest in our communities, look out for each other, do whatever it takes to kind of weather this storm, because, when you look at the kind of the longer term history of the United States, it's not that this is necessarily an unprecedented kind of situation. But the potential for its effects on a global level, whether it's through climate change, military engagement, etc., it's probably bigger than it's ever been. And so it's up to us really to demonstrate that, regardless of whoever is our leadership or quote unquote leadership, in Washington D.C., that we as citizens, and especially the state of California and places like Los Angeles, have a really large opportunity to kind of make an impact. But I mean, no matter where you are in this country, I think, being silent is probably the last thing you should be doing right now.
Yeah.
And don't just hold the Republican Party.
Hold everybody accountable.
Yeah. Democrats screwed up too.
Yeah.
Democratic Party. You should have elected Bernie.
Something that I've been doing every day is a reminder is to tell myself this is not normal. And I see that hashtag, people doing a lot of posts. There's a lot of people who felt like, how do people go back to like their regular life, posting pictures of their dogs on Facebook when a fascist has been elected?
Right.
And I think we can go back to our regular lives, but it's again being vigilant and telling ourselves like this is not normal. Like the threat of a Muslim registry is not normal.
No.
Having President Voldemort yell at the cast of Hamilton for attempting to have actual dialogue with the vice president is not normal. President Voldemort having to pay back a fraud case on Trump University, this is not normal. Like, we are living in a state of this is not normal, and we have to remind ourselves every day so that we fight for a better life for all of us, for all Americans.
Well said.
Well said.
All right. And that's it. Thank you for listening to this episode. Subscribe on iTunes. Follow us on Facebook. Like us on Mixcloud.
Or tell us what you think.
Tell us what you think. Tweet at us at TFAL Podcast. Email at us, thisfilipinoamericanlife@gmail.com.
And shout out to all the trolls out there who, all the Republican trolls.
You made us feel legit.